Alrighty, welcome to the podcast.
We definitely need to get a new intro song. Leave that there.
Thank you for that comment. So we have friends on the podcast today. Jeff and Patty are both out of town. Jeff actually went up to New York to surprise the choir up in New York. I think he went to the concert last night. I hadn't heard how it went, but he went up there and surprised them. And Patty's obviously in the choir, so she's gone with them. So we've got the student team with us today. And along with them, we've got our resident Jeff expert, Sean Seston.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I am delighting in this chair right now.
We were talking about it yesterday, how we're going to do it, because they're both out. And Sean had the idea of wearing his UT shirt and being Jeff Pratt. So thanks for joining us today.
No problem.
Jeff, Sean. For the rest of you, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, yeah, Lane said something or did something. They're like, who's Lane? So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to introduce you guys. So obviously we have Cody. Everybody knows Cody. And Cody and Lane are sharing a mic. So, but Lane and Rayanne are the student interns for the summer. So Lane, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I've already said your name.
As you said, my name is Lane. I go to Oklahoma Baptist University. I'm from Oklahoma. I was with Cody at his previous ministry. I don't know what else to say. Big fan of root beer, I guess.
Root beer.
Mm-hmm.
What about cheerwine? Do you like cheerwine?
Never had it.
Ooh, cheerwine's so good.
So sad. As a North Carolinian, cheerwine, is root beer like an Oklahoma thing, or is it just your favorite?
It's just God's gift to this green earth.
To each their own, I guess. Cheerwine's North Carolina, so that's my thing. So you came here, you were in Cody's ministry in Oklahoma and came for the summer. What made you decide to come to Tennessee to intern with Cody this summer?
Well, I really just wanted to kind of learn more about ministry. I wanted to have a fresh experience with the church, because the church in Oklahoma was a new one. It was a church plant. So I never got to see more of a historical church and how that worked. So that was one of the driving forces behind it. But also, I kind of like Cody, you know?
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
He's all right. Well, how has it been? Obviously, so I came from a church plant too, so seeing the differences in a church that's been around for 76 years, I think we're in, or 47, so 70, I don't know, something like that, 78. How has it been this summer? You can say interning with Cody, but also just the experience of we're getting near the end of the summer now. You've got through the camps and stuff. So how's it been internship wise? What have you learned?
It's been a really good time. I've learned kind of how to, I guess, deal with, I haven't done with this, but I've seen how others have dealt with kind of having new ideas while also dealing with the traditions, because both are good. Like there needs to be a mix there, but kind of how to navigate that. Yeah, that's definitely one thing I've learned.
For sure, it is challenging. Yeah, you came at a very interesting time with the construction going on and just where we're at as a church. Obviously, having the tradition, like you said, but things moving forward and following the Spirit's leading that. So yeah, that's great. And then on my other side, we got Rayanne. Rayanne's been at the church for a long time. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself first.
My name's Rayanne.
Doesn't know you.
The kids call me Ray Ray. I like Diet Coke, not root beer. I go to Cumberland University. My major is teaching for now.
For now?
Yeah, we'll see.
You thinking about changing?
No. I like teaching it, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
This summer, being with kids all the time, I don't know. We'll see. I think I like it.
Enough said.
I think I like it, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they have a little more freedom in the summer, so we'll give them credit for that. What led you to decide to do an internship this summer?
I saw, when I was in youth, having Haley Graham and Brenna being my mentor. I wanted to give them somebody like that to bring the hype, but also be there at camp when they were all crying and cry night, best night of the week. But I just wanted to be somebody like that, a mentor for the girls, to have somebody like that to lean on all summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to like start some Bible studies and stuff with them too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuesday nights, 6 p.m.
That's awesome. Good
Little
stuff.
plug.
Well, glad you're doing it. Sean, you're like Sean/Jeff. Going to Sean mode now. Are you?
Yeah.
So you're like, what is your position right now at Emmanuel? Are you an intern? Are you a staff member? What's going on?
Yes. I don't know. I've been around for I think it's 5 years now.
Yeah.
With the student ministry. So I guess I'm pretty consistent. So yeah, both.
Yeah.
And yes.
Can't get rid of him.
I joke about that though, because you have like, I remember it was probably right after Brenna and Haley.
It was.
But with you and Ethan coming on as interns, and then it's like you're intern throughout the year, and then have done some mission work and stuff. So, but I know you've made a big impact in a lot of these students' lives, and continue to see that throughout the summer. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Cody.
Yes.
I had a follow up for you about Lane, and I can't remember what it was. Do you like Lane?
Do I like Lane? Do you think I'd make him drive 9 hours away from home to spend a summer with me living in my house
Touche.
if I didn't like Lane? No, I hate him.
I don't think he likes Lane.
No.
That's all right.
I thought we were going to have a great summer, but he's my daughter's favorite now. And she wakes up, gives me a hug, and immediately asks, "Where's Lane at?" And doesn't ask because she can't full complete sentences yet, but she just immediately goes, "Lane, Lane," and starts running and try to find him. Like, no, Lane's asleep. And she goes, "Oh, shh, Lane."
That's awesome.
He's not asleep, but I'm just giving him some space because she can be a little smothering sometimes with him, but they're having a good time.
That's awesome.
But it has been a really cool experience to have him out, and not just as a student, but getting to help teach him some of the ministry aspects that we got going on here.
Yeah.
And just some of my favorite memories in ministry involve him. And last year when he was a senior in high school, he did an internship program with us through his school and what we were doing at our church, and we got to help gear him up. And he actually got to preach a sermon on a Sunday morning, so it was a really cool process there. He's actually going to be teaching this Wednesday night, so excited to see how the growth in that's gone. But it's been great, and it's also been awesome having Rayanne, getting to know her more, because I know she was a leader in the student ministry in her time here, and so getting to see her grow, not just on the side of, hey, I had history here, but how can I continue to move the story forward here? And to brag on her girls' Bible study started with, I think you said 6 the first week, and it's grown consistently each week. And our guys, Sean and Lane, got their boys' Bible study going on now on Fridays. First week was a big hit, and I'm excited to see how many more guys start coming for that. But I just got to brag on this team, man. They've been fantastic this summer. Just getting to see them navigate through the situations they have, especially some of our stories from camp. Camp was amazing. Camp was a fun time, but they got to learn some firsthand that camp has some aspects to it that are difficult and hard, but that's going to happen whenever you get students together for a week-long period, especially when you're trying to focus on the Lord, and the enemy's going to try to do things to get in the way of that. Yeah. But they handled it well. They handled it with grace, and I take them into battle anytime, especially on the pickleball court, because I think that's our new thing we got going now. So.
By the way, I beat all 3 of them last night, just so you guys know that.
No, that was Sunday night.
And I was barefoot too, and I still won.
Yeah, and I
just
lost.
So you guys know.
She won every game she played.
Sean's
I lost
still
every
mad
game I
about that.
played, so I'm still just a little upset. But,
Sean's still mad about that, but it's fine.
I think Sean was most upset that she beat him in barefoot.
Yeah.
No
just
comment.
a little bit.
He's quiet over there.
Just a little bit.
No comment.
I was on Sean's
good
team
stuff.
too, and he was really disappointed in me. So he's not gonna no comment. I'd track my full time comment now.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. I'd hire you in a heartbeat.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for joining us for the discussion. And I don't say this about former like IBC interns, but just in general, I know there's some people that do internships at churches that I probably wouldn't bring them onto a podcast like this to have deeper discussions. But just in some of the way that I've seen y'all carry yourselves, and the small discussions that we've had, I trust you guys' opinion and sometimes differences of opinion on things. So looking forward to a discussion about this. So thank you for joining us. So this week we were in Psalm 115, which was one of Jeff mentioned at the beginning, it was one of the Hallel Psalms or Hallel songs, which were songs of praise. Back when I read a book a little while back, and that's wild for me to say, I don't read too many books, but It was a book about worships. That's why. But it was about the 7 Hebrew words for worship, and one of them is Hallel. And so it's a song of praise. Sean, I think you looked into that a little bit.
Yeah. So Psalm 113 and 118 are the Hallel Psalms, and they kind of recount the Passover in Exodus and how God was faithful and provided. They would have been sung every Passover week and meal to kind of remember God's faithfulness in Exodus. But also, like, thinking through that, Jesus would have sung them the week of his crucifixion, and at the Last Supper likely would have sung them right after it with his disciples. So I think that's pretty cool to think that this was a psalm that he would have sung that last week right before he made the ultimate sacrifice there as a Passover lamb.
So cool.
For sure. And it's interesting looking at Psalm 115 specifically, as they would have been singing this in the portion where it talks about, hey, trust in the Lord, almost like a reminder of comfort. Hey, as these things are about to happen, trust in the Lord. But they didn't catch sight of that because we know how things went, falling asleep in the garden and then scattering when everything was going on. It just goes to show how often we may know songs like this or know these truths, but when we need to fall back on them, we go the opposite way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And it's interesting thinking about like him singing this psalm or this song with his disciples, leading up to the resurrection, about idols specifically, like with all the different things that they were experiencing in their lives and following Jesus, but then not making a thing in the midst of this an idol or getting off track or whatever it may be, but focusing on him, on the purpose of the psalm and him. It was around that time, right, that he first like said out loud or established that he was the Christ, he was the Messiah. He had said other times, am I saying that right? I remember talking about that recently.
I mean, he had established at different points throughout his ministry.
Yeah.
And so there was several times, even if you want to dive into anything specific with that, or
So during the Last Supper, he did tell them that he was about to go make that sacrifice, but then that he would be back and all that. Like he would send somebody. It was a whole conversation.
Yeah.
So,
It was a continuation, because even if you look at like the Mount of Transfiguration, it was right before that where Peter acknowledges that, oh, you are, like, Jesus has the whole thing. Well, who does everyone say I am? Oh, they say you're a prophet or John the Baptist or one of these individuals. Well, who do you say I am?
Right.
And Peter stood up and said, no, you are the Christ. And Jesus blessed him, saying, hey, it's not flesh or blood that revealed this to you, but my Father who's in heaven. And then even as they go on to the Mount of Transfiguration and how he even solidified that even more, was showcasing that to them. And then it was just a reminder, hey, even though I have this power and position, there's a reason I came to this world to be that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And there's something interesting talking about these idol worships, even in the midst of the Passover and the Last Supper and everything. If you notice, whenever they're at the Last Supper, all the disciples referred to him as Lord, except for one. And it's Judas, who still calls him Rabbi at that point. And so even as he's driving home this fact one more time to them before he goes off, the one who would betray him still didn't fully understand who he was. And so it's just a little thing that, it's just, again, semantics and words matter.
Yeah.
And you see that just little difference there. And it's just crazy to notice that too.
Yeah.
And how he was around this whole thing, but still didn't get full sight of who he was.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Kind of digging into this passage a little, and it was Peter saying you are the Christ. That was the one that I was referring to, which wasn't too long before all of this took place, right?
Yeah. Too long.
So digging into this passage, the message a little bit more. Anything else stand out to you guys from what Jeff said, or just thinking about the concept of this passage?
Yeah, I got something with that. I was just kind of, while reading it, looking at like the historical context of it, and how like the pagans would view idols, right? Mm-hmm. So they would form these idols. They would have, eyes, ears, whatnot. So they would have them, and they would literally think that the god was in that idol and was physically there. So what would they do? They would give it food, they would give it water, give it gifts, so that it would help them in things such as fertility, harvest, things of that nature. And so what they were doing is they would give them these stuff, like give them food, water, so that they could get something out of it. So I just really enjoy verse 3 where it says, our God is in heaven and does whatever he pleases. It's not like, of course, God is completely independent, but it's also, you can't like buy God's favor
right
in that. So he does whatever he wants, not reliant on what you do.
I wonder what I love that. I love that thought and the context of it. I wonder what they thought in this time, like knowing the prophecies of the Messiah to come, of Jesus to come, and seeing this, but wrestling with that. Like we see the faith without works is dead and that whole concept. And we know that we don't do anything to earn God's favor or his mercy or anything. But I wonder how they process that of like, he can do whatever he wants, but they were still like in the Old Testament, they were still making sacrifices and having to do things. I wonder how they wrestled with that thought of like feeding the idols, having to do things for their idols, but also like we have to make sacrifices for our sins and the past, all that stuff. I wonder in that context how they processed that kind of thought of the hand in hand of that.
Well, I think some of it would come down to what are you giving to the idol or what are you sacrificing for God, God for? And so we see the sacrificial system was totally about having a right standing with God. And so it was the atonement of sins and to ask for forgiveness in that, to where Lane was pointing out with idol worship, it's all about transaction. Oh, I'm going to give you this, so I expect something in return. Yeah. And a lot of times that you see that, especially with the Pharisees in the New Testament, of how they boiled their system down to a transaction. Oh, I'm going to fast this way, or I'm going to give this much because I expect God to give me back in return. But it was never meant to be about that. It was say, hey, understand where your sin is and how you've wandered off from God, and this is your way to get back to him. And so it's not that he has to, but it's a promise he gave to them. Hey, I will be your God and you'll be my people if you follow my commands. Yeah. We see that in the Mosaic covenant. It's very conditional in that. And so it's not, again, about a transaction, but God was the one who was saying, hey, if you want to walk with me, there's a way to do that. Yeah. And so, but so often we boil it down to, oh, if I just do these things to please God, he'll do anything I need to please me. And we see that especially in Psalms where I forgot which one, I think it's in 46, where it mentions, and God will give you the desires of your heart. And they don't include the part where it's, you need to align your heart with his first and foremost and understand why he's calling us to do things the way they are. And so it can be easy to see how the tripping up, well, I sacrifice to this God, so if I give things to these gods and they say they're going to give me this, so kind of works in the same fashion. But again, it's like, are you trying to do it for your own possession, or are you doing it because you sinned against God and trying to get back to be with him? Yeah. And even within what Christ has done for us, there's no transaction there. He's the one who's paid the payment, and we just get to accept the free gift that he's purchased for us. Yeah. The only exchange that happened is he took our place, and now we get to sit beside him. Yeah. And so again, nothing we've done, he's done the work for us, invites us into that, and we get all the benefit from it, which I love. When you guys saying how deep the Father's love, that line where it says, why should I gain from his reward? Like, there's no reason we should at all, but he's given us great blessing in that. Yep. And we get to sit in that and receive it, and we're called to follow after him. Again, not to say, hey, if I follow you in obedience, I get these things. But no, you've already given me great blessing, so why would I not want to follow after you? And I think that's the main difference. Again, it's that view of a transaction versus the relationship too. Yeah. And I think that's so important where it talks about they can't feel things. And one of Jeff's points that he made that I loved was where their hands may not be able to feel anything, our God's hands felt every ounce of pain as he was nailed to that cross. And now those same hands get to hold us as his children. Like, that's a beautiful picture of the difference between them. Yep. Where it's like, hey, I'm going to give to this idol in hopes that I get something good out of it. No, he felt everything he went through for us and says, hey, now you can know these things about me. And he reveals himself to us in that.
Yeah, which I think that's cool because it goes back to the personal aspect of God, because Jeff mentioned in the sermon about them making the golden calf while Moses was up getting the 10 Commandments. And that was because they wanted to have a God there with them, a personal relationship with the God, but they went about it in just a completely wrong way. Yeah. But we see that right after that, following in Exodus, after the 10 Commandments, they get instructions for the tabernacle, which will have the Holy of Holies, which is where God wants to dwell with his people. So he sees that want for the people desire to dwell with him. So he's like, hey, you're doing it in the wrong way with the golden calf. So let's get rid of that. No idols. So let me help you do that better by, I'm going to come dwell with you. We'll get the sacrificial system in place to where I can be with you in the tabernacle, in the Holy of Holies. So we see that God is personal. Like, he hears them. He hears that they want somebody there. They want their God to be around. But he's like, y'all are doing it wrong. Let me help you do it properly, which I think is pretty neat when you think about the Hillel
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Psalms.
absolutely.
And the beautiful thing in that too, it's not just he's like, oh, well, I'll appease them by dwelling with them. I mean, I want to be. No, he wants to dwell with his people as well, which is why he says, "I will be your God, and you will be my people," because he wants to be with us as much as we want to be with him. And I think it's interesting too, talking about the confusion between the true God and these idols. Was when they built the calf, the only gods they had in mind were, oh, we were in Egypt for 400 years. Well, they had calf gods and bull gods and things like that. So let's make it in this image. And so we don't know what God looks like, but we've seen this, so maybe there's some correlation there. And again, just going about the wrong way, but God is grace and mercy. Hey, let me show you and point you in the right direction in that.
for sure.
Yeah, I love the connection too of that you said, like with the Pharisees, still like they felt like they were worshiping the right God, but essentially they were still worshiping an idol. Like they were still doing what they were doing to an image or to what they thought was what they're supposed to be doing, but doing it the way they were was not worshiping the one true God. And looking at the other religions in like that we see today, some that we dealt with and had discussions with in New York, every other religion, the God that we are serving, little g God that we're serving or that they're serving, you have to do something to gain it or their favor. The God is high. You can't reach this. For us, for Christianity, it's the only example of a religion where God came down to earth, did everything for us, and there's nothing that we can do to repay that. He just asked us for that devotion in our lives. So,
Yep. And I think even with the Pharisees, it points to what Jeff started the sermon with, where we can try to demonize other people's idols. But in reality, most of our idol worship centers around self and what we want, and even worshiping ourselves. I think it's where many of the Pharisees were at too, because if you're looking at, are they trying to bolster God's name? No, they're trying to jockey for position themselves. They're trying to make their names known, impress those around them. And so it's like, hey, I do all these things. I put the block on my head when I'm fasting, cover myself with all this makeup, so I look like I'm doing more, so you are impressed by me. Oh, well, I give all this money in the temple, and I make a loud noise about it, so who's your focus on? Me.
Yeah.
And when I'm praying loud on the street corners and all these different things, so who's your focus on? Me. And so I think so often, because even in idol worship, where it's the transaction, I'm going to give you this, so you give me in return. I think it's where so many of them were at. They had lost sight of God and made themselves the God in their story while claiming to worship and follow God. But I think many of us do the same thing, where we say, hey, I'm doing this for God's effort. Are you just doing it so you feel better about yourself? Oh, I'm giving this much to the church because I'm trying to honor God with it. Okay, well, are you being cheerful giver, or how are you going about it? Oh, I'm going on this trip because I want to benefit those in the third world country. Well, the way you're posting pictures about it, are you really trying to do it for their benefit, or is it more of a conscious trip for you to say, hey, I'm doing really good here? And so, which again, not bad things, but it's all in the manner in which we do it and why we do it. Is it for that transactional system and the worship of self? Or are you truly trying to worship God while you're doing that and doing it as He's called us to?
yeah, absolutely. So with that, those are some great examples. What are some other examples that we see in today? Because really, pride. It reminded me back. Were you here when we did the 7 Deadly Sins sermon series?
I think I was not.
It was like right on the edge of when you got here. But in that, looking at one of them being pride, really pride is the essence of all the other ones. Like all the other ones flow out of that love for self and worship of self at times. And so that's a huge example of an idol that we have in our culture and in our lives. What are some other examples that we see today of idols? Because I mean, we think of obviously the golden calf. We think of Buddha and Hinduism. They have a bunch of gods and these different things. But what are some examples of idols that we, even as Christians, can sometimes deal with in our lives?
Yeah, so thinking back, like we usually think of idols as the Buddhas or the golden calves and stuff. And we're like, well, we would never fall for that because that's obviously not a god. But then, like, if you look back at the heart of it, it is anything that would take the place of God in your life. So that could be a multitude of things, whether that's social media, it could be a relationship, it could be just anything that you will put more effort in than you would God would be that idol in your life. So it could be a multitude of things. And I think the way that you would see if it's an idol or not is, can you do without it? Does it take the place of God in your life? Is it controlling your thoughts? But then try to get away from it for a little while and see how you feel. If it's like you want to give more time to it, then that's probably an idol, which could be a multitude of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially you mentioned social media, you realize how much time you give to it that takes away. Like we have a limited amount of time, so anything we give time to, it's taking away time from something else. And so a lot of times I've found myself in this boat, getting on social media and start scrolling through the reels, and time somehow fast forwards when you get on TikTok or start rolling through reels.
4 hours
It's
later.
like, yeah, it's like what just happened? And I've said many times like, all right, just one more, and then I'm gonna go read my Bible or whatever, and oh well, now I'm tired, and I'm it's 2 hours later or an hour later, and I'm going to bed or fell asleep watching a video like I did last night. I woke up to Taylor taking the phone out of my hand as I'm laying sideways on the belly.
No, I need that.
So it's so easy for it to happen.
Yeah. And I think one thing students will often come to me with is, well, I don't have enough time to study my Bible or do these things. And my go-to response is, all right, pull up your screen time usage on your phone right now. And that's when they're like, oh no, because they pull it up and it's like, all right, how much time do you have to TikTok, to YouTube, these games and different things like that? It's like, do you really need to be dedicating that much time to it? You say you love God with everything you are, and I'm just as guilty of it. And I'm like, hey, I'll show you mine too. Here's where I can fit some more time into my schedule as well. But I think that's something we really got to ask with that. It's like, if we say we truly value something, we're going to dedicate time to it. So if we truly value our relationship with God, but we're not dedicating time to it, it's something that we really value.
Yeah.
And so, like we said, the idol of self, social media can be a big one. Sometimes the people we follow on social media, if you're spending more time listening to people talk about God and His Word than you are spending in God's Word, you may need to ask yourself, am I going about this right? And there's nothing wrong with having those teachers we listen to and we follow, and to turn to them as a resource. But if that's the only way you're taking in God's Word, then there's probably an issue there. And so we got to ask ourselves, hey, am I going about this the right way? And it could be 1,000 other things. It could be even our jobs and how we dedicate our time, ourselves to that. And I know it's easy for us in ministry too, to get it mixed up and say ministry is the priority instead of God. But we got to keep that balance right too.
Yep.
With so many things, even family, friends, pickleball. So.
And a lot of these things aren't bad things.
No.
Like you said, we can't demonize the things. It's the perspective that, like, obviously God's given us our families to steward and discipleship and to love on. He's given us our jobs as a means of discipleship, of ministry, and to make a living and everything else. So we can't demonize the things. Even social media has great value in our culture to connect us to people that we wouldn't have connections with otherwise. Or just in general, like the amount of DIY things that I come across on social media that I'm like, well, I'm gonna try that. And some of them have worked. Some of them very much did not. But social media isn't the problem. It's the amount of weight and value, and when we put that above where we hold God, time wise and in our hearts. Anything else? Any other thoughts on that?
And I would say with that, like, often we see people say, hey, I'm fasting from social media. It's like, if you need it, fast from it. And it's not food. Like, fasting is from something you need. So if you find the need to say, I'm going to fast from this, it's probably something that's an idol.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a good point.
You see it a lot. It's frustrating.
Yeah, because fasting, that's a great point. Fasting is to take time away from something that you need to put your reliance on God in that time.
When you make a spiritual discipline a form of, like, killing idols, it's like, are you doing it right?
That's good. That's good stuff. With that, you mentioned the golden calf, and Jeff mentioned on Sunday too with this, that when they made the golden calf, Moses went up on the mountain for the 10 Commandments, and they were wanting something so that they could put their hands on, that they could see, to kind of create an image of what they were worshiping, which was God. So I think their intentions were right, but obviously it wasn't right in practice. So how far is too far when it comes to idols? I've looked in our sanctuary before and saw there's a cross at the top of the baptistry. There's a cross on the stained glass behind the baptistry. The pulpit is a cross. There's a cross in front of the pulpit. And at one point there was another wall behind the pulpit that had another cross. Like, we've got crosses everywhere. We've got pictures of whether we think it looked like Jesus or not. We've got pictures of Jesus. Like, how far is too far when it comes to those things of depicting what we think it might have been, or having things that we use in our services.
Yeah, so I used to have a professor in college who would always say the path to hell is paved in good intentions. And so good intentions aren't a bad thing, but if you're not careful, those good intentions could be leading you down the wrong path if you're not truly acting on how you should be.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's bad to have things around our sanctuary that remind us of those stories.
Absolutely.
Like you look at the stained glass, it's stories all throughout the gospel. And so it reminds us of the story of Christ. The cross is a powerful symbol of our salvation and the freedom we have. And it's good to remind ourselves of those things. One thing I challenge students on all the time, because you'll see them like wearing a cross necklace or things like that. And it's like, if that's the only cross you bear, then you're not going about it the right way. So when it says to deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow him daily, it's a lifestyle that we live out. And so if you're the only place you're remembering him is here, then you may need to ask yourself, are you really going about it the right way in how you worship him? Or has it become just that transactional, well, I'll come on Sunday, so the rest of my week better be blessed as I walk from here. And so I don't think anything we have here is necessarily wrong in that, but it's the way we may view it and how we go about it. And we got to be careful with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the guys are studying Proverbs in our youth guys Bible study, and it talks about you'll bear the fruit of like your true, like what your motive, like intentions are, what your heart is at. So like, who do you spend the time with? If you're only spending time with the Lord around here, and you wonder, well, why do I act this way when I'm not in church? Well, it's because you're not actually getting filled by the Lord, right? Your fruits aren't going to bear that. So it's kind of you'll see your true colors and who you give your time to, who your idols are when you're looking at your life. What fruits do you bear? So just kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on that?
And I don't know, my mind went to kind of just arguing over should we show images of Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that comes up, and that's been around for about 2,000 years. But in the Reformation, we see that, and like John Calvin was very much against graven images. But so a lot of people are taking that no images of Jesus. But what does that mean, right? In John Calvin's Bible, there's an image of Jesus. So it's like, did he mean no pictures of Jesus? I think he was more pointing out the supernatural belief of like these images. And just like you're kind of putting your trust in these images when you should be putting your trust in God.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with showing Jesus. He's the image of the invisible God. So, but I mean, there's different opinions on that.
Yeah.
I mean, God showed us Jesus so we can have an image to have of who this God is that we worship. And I'm reading through, playing through John with my cousin and my brother-in-law right now, and just finishing up the first part of John chapter 1, where it talks about in the beginning was the Word with God, and that he is the image of the invisible God. And so where he pointed to the temple in the Old Testament, he pointed to himself in the New Testament. So we have this image. So again, I don't think it's bad the reminder of it, but again, like what Lane was saying, it's what we do with that. You get those people, it's like, oh, this potato chip looks like Jesus, and it's selling on eBay for millions of dollars. It's like, all right, I think we lost the plot somewhere along the way with that one. Like, it's just a potato chip. There's nothing, like, might look cool, but there's no supernatural power behind it. When people are clinging to it like that, I think you're putting more power in the object than the person the object's supposed to represent.
Right.
And that's where we got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a key point that, for all of them, I say all the crosses that we have on the stage, not necessarily as a negative, but I think that can become such a picture of what our faith is, not just what it represents, because the cross is like, that is what our whole world revolves around. Like, that is the point that Jesus died to pay for our sins. So obviously that's a huge thing, but we see it so much and wear it on necklaces and have it on shirts, and it's everywhere, that I think sometimes we can almost become numb to it, that, oh yeah, it's the cross, it just means Christianity. When really that's the cruelest, like most, like the worst form of death imaginable in that time. The Romans were experts at torture. And so that was the way that they put the worst criminals to death. And yet we just throw it around everywhere like it's a symbol, which again, not a bad thing, but I think we have to remind ourselves and remember, it's kind of like the Lord's Supper in a way, to remember what he did and to remember that that's not just a symbol. Like, that is the essence of what we believe. And without that, we would have nothing.
Yeah. But it's cool how even those things can change over time, where in the Roman Empire, they would have looked at the cross and immediately thought of death, destruction, and ultimate pain. But we can look into it. We can see freedom, we can see new life, and we can see the resurrection that it points to after the fact.
Yeah.
And so again, it's great to have, a great reminder to have too. But I think we need to take that time to reflect on it as well, and not just get so to where we take it for granted, almost like, oh yeah, we can expect that to be there. But take that time and ponder again, what happened on that cross?
Yeah.
He went through with that, and what it did represent me at that time too, but also how we can rejoice in the power that was displayed upon that cross and the tool that God used for our salvation in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thought I just had with examples of idols in our culture. I think it's easy for us in America, especially, to make our freedom in America or our love for our country an idol as well. We love our freedom and love the fact that we live in a free country and can worship freely and can, make our, all the things. We look at other cultures like, man, it's so horrible that they have to live in that. But I think at times it can make us so comfortable in our freedom that we don't live the life of a disciple and of discipleship that we're called to. We had some of these conversations recently of like, I was talking to Jacob last week of like, are we so comfortable here that leads to what we see so often of, I just come to church and that's my faith. And, we talk about making disciples and church is the disciple making. And then I go about my life like nothing happened. And then I even look at some, we were talking about this yesterday. I don't know if it's new or not, but there's a Osama bin Laden documentary on Netflix right now that we started. And it's put me in a really weird spot because growing up, when 9/11 happened, I was in second grade. So I wasn't like fully, I guess you could say, developed and remember all the details or know what's going on. But me and Taylor were watching it last night just thinking, man, like some of the things that he was saying on the news and these interviews, like I can't imagine what our parents were thinking having kids in America that's getting attacked and not the unknown. But growing up in that and really being taught from America to look at a certain person that looks a certain way, that we're to look down on them, that really to put fear into that thought. And it, in a way, I think dehumanized many people that look like this terrorist group that did this horrible thing. Now, the last few years, I've been going to New York and doing ministry with Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus and people that look like I've been taught for so long not to like or to have a certain opinion about. And now, so my heart's been softened to that. But then now watching this documentary again, it's like, man, there's such a tension there of like, they feel like they're following their God and doing this for worship or for him or whatever it may be. But obviously their motives and everything are off track. But at the end of the day, they were created in the image of God just like we were. And God loves them just as much as we do. So I think it's easy for us to harden our hearts. And I don't know where I'm going with this. We're talking about idols and I've gone on a whole side trail, but it's easy for us to harden our hearts and not view them as people that God died for when he did. And we still have a purpose to go and to share truth with them. So,
yeah. And I think something that comes to the worship of self, oftentimes it's not just about elevating ourselves, it's putting down others too. Oh. And so we make ourselves feel better about ourselves when we look down upon others. And so I think in that situation, it's a reminder that, hey, just because one extremist group acted out in a certain way doesn't mean an entire culture is like that.
Right.
In the same way, if we had Southern Baptist Church go crazy and do something insane, we wouldn't want everyone to associate IBC with that either. And so it's understanding that people are different from the people that are around too. And we got to remember that. Just as Jesus came and preached on the Sermon on the Mount, they've been taught, the Jewish people, that you can love your neighbor and hate your enemies, but he came and clarified, no, you need to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Yep. Because that wasn't even where they had started picking that up, wasn't anywhere in the law. In fact, God told them, hey, don't despise the Egyptians even though you just got brought out of slavery from there. If they come and you were once sojourners in their land, take care of them. And if you start connecting with them, generations can be added to the kingdom of God because of that and those interactions. Yeah. And so in the same way he came and taught that, we need to understand that, hey, if we have to focus so much on ourselves, trying to make ourselves feel better by putting other people down, there's probably some idol worship going on in our life there in that situation too. And just because they're from a different culture doesn't mean they're valued any less. And we see that Jesus confronted that message time and time again throughout the Gospels. The Samaritan woman, he wouldn't even had that conversation if he followed the practice at the time to go around Samaria, but no, he cut right through because there was that appointment he wanted to make, and that entire town came to know him because of that. And so it's a conversation that should not have happened because of who they were culturally, ethnically, and everything going on at that time. But look at all the results of that. And so imagine if we step out of our comfort zone, and even if we may not fully know the situation, but we step out, we show that care and compassion and love them as God's loved them, there's no telling where that situation can end up.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like the key to that is that sin should break our hearts. Like, because we're all, like you were saying, made in the image of God. We all struggle with sin, and like, yeah, it should just break our hearts. Like for those people that like have it wrong, like they're not following God, they're not doing the right things. That should break our hearts. The people that have idols in their life, like we shouldn't have like like we should obviously try to help them and correct that, but at the same time, we should pray that they like get away from that, because we know how much sin can control somebody's life, and pray that God comes in and does what only He can do and kind of deliver them from that. So
yeah. And that same passage I was talking about in the Sermon on the Mount talks about how God allows the sun to shine on both the evil and the good, and the rain to fall on the unrighteous and the righteous. Like God extends common grace to all to point to who He is, and then He calls us to go and proclaim the message of salvific grace in the hopes that they come to know Him. Sure. And so creation's without excuse. We can look across this world and all of creation and know there's some creator behind this, and they have the common grace to understand that. And He gives us that message to go and share with them, hey, here's how you can have salvation with that creator and have a relationship with Him. And it should break our hearts, just as it did Jesus. And one of my favorite passages, I think it's I forgot exactly where it's at, but when Jesus looks upon the crowds and He's down, like brokenhearted for them because they're harassed and helpless like a sheep without a shepherd. Yeah. And like when to use that word, He felt compassion for them, and their belief, they understood, like, and so where we talk about like a broken heart, they understood it like in the entire core of the individual, like in their bowels and their stomach area, because that's just where they felt like the pit of emotion in that. And so like to the deepest part of who He was, He felt this compassion for them. Why? Because they got led away from God. They were without their shepherd. Yeah. And so instead of looking to people who are different from us with anger because of something someone may have done, we should have that same compassion, knowing, man, they're living this way or acting this way because they're not following the shepherd. And who are we to judge? We were once in that same boat and position they were in. Yeah. And that's where Paul reminds us. He said, we love to look at that list Paul gives of all these sinful individuals and point out, oh, well, these individuals can't come to the kingdom of God. We love to leave out the part where he says, as were some of you. Like, we're not any different than they are. We still struggle with sin. We should be brokenhearted over our sin, but theirs as well, but not just sit in that. Because just Jesus led and was the good shepherd to lead them from that, to point them to the good shepherd who can get them out of that sin and into a right relationship with Him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Rand, do you have anything? These guys like to talk a lot, so probably feel
grade A yappers over
here. Tell us from a girl's perspective, are there any other examples you can think of idols that are easy for us to bring into our life? Obviously, social media is a big one in our world, but anything else come to mind for you of examples of idols in our culture?
I feel like, I don't know the word for this, but like comparison, like comparing yourself to like somebody else can be your idol. Like, well, this person looks better than me, or this person, like whatever, their hair or their makeup is better. I feel like for girls, it's very easy to like do that. And whenever you like, God loves you, like we're made in His image. So like God does not care like whether your hair's done and you look better than the other day or whatever. And I feel like as girls, it's easy to like forget like we are made in God's image. Like God loves you no matter how you look in the world's perspective. And it's very hard to like know and believe and trust sometimes that like God does love you no matter what you look like or how you act sometimes. And it can be the idol for like some girls to like have that, like how you look in the world's eye more than God's like view of you. And it's very easy to like, lean on that and more than God, and like not like listen to God and like not know that He loves you. And it's kind of hard sometimes to like if someone was asking you like, well, is your day better because of God or because of how you look, you would say because of how you look. But anyways, that was counter tangent. But I feel like the idol can be like comparison, because we like lean on so heavy of like how we look and how we are viewed by the world. It can be hard to like, know and trust that God is all that matters and like believe that in your heart sometimes. And it's easy to like, have that as your idol of comparison and just the thief of joy
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So it's kind of hard
Absolutely.
sometimes.
That's
But, yeah.
huge. And that plays into the pride context that we were talking about, putting ourselves up and wanting us to look as good or whatever.
Yeah.
And the comparison even can elevate other people, celebrities, friends, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
above God, to where I want to look like them or act like them, or even more than looks. Like, I want to have the job that they have. I don't, I don't like my job as much, or make as much money, or I want to have the family. I want to have the relationship, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's a great point, great example. When you were talking to, I thought back to, well, really with all this conversation, one of my favorite worship songs back in the day was Forever Rain. You remember that one? You are good, when there's nothing good in me. And the bridge, my heart will sing no other name, Jesus, Jesus. And I always...
About to have church in here right now.
Right?
Come on.
But really, that's where all of this comes back to, that our heart... Jeez. Since Jeff's not here, I got to clear my throat. But that our heart will sing. I don't know if I was at camp that somebody said this and it really connected. Like, that sounds like a great line in general, but we've got so many names in our culture, politicians and celebrities, and you drive down the road and see billboards and people's faces on signs. Like, there's so many names that we can put in that place of our heart that fills a void, or that that makes us feel like we want to feel, or whatever it may be. But let our hearts sing no other name but Jesus in our lives. That's what it looks like to rid ourselves of idols. So for us, last question, just to kind of bring it down, land the plane, so to speak. Jeff, our Jeffism. We hadn't got any Jeffisms.
I'm sorry.
Like, it was right at the beginning.
I put my hat on. I went back to Sean.
Yeah.
He does delight in that chair, though.
I do delight in this chair. I do.
Jethro.
What was your favorite move in wrestling, Sean?
The lat drop is what I'm going to say for keep that one politically correct in
There
here.
you go.
Jeff will understand. Just doesn't make sense.
Just know, Jeff,
Head outside single, and he'll understand
There you go.
what I was saying.
Just know that when we talked about doing this, Sean went for probably 10 minutes just saying Jeffisms. We'll have to bring him up at some point.
We'll do them. I'll do it with him in there.
Little Jeff
Pretty
skit.
funny, yeah.
Transmissions.
So to kind of...
You think he asked if I wanted to hold that transmission? No.
He said, Jethro, get out there. Hold that transmission up.
He's okay.
So to kind of land the plane, how do we identify idols in our lives as believers? Obviously, idols can still creep in, and things can take the place of God still. So how do we know if we have idols in our lives, or how do we identify if we have idols in our daily lives?
So I think with the spiritual disciplines we've been talking about, so one of them that's kind of not talked about a ton is solitude, kind of getting away and spending time with the Lord, but also doing some reflection on your life and see what has taken time away from the Lord. Like, actually being real with yourself, saying, hey, this is taking more time from my walk with Christ, and evaluating if that's something you can change or need to cut out completely. So I'd say that's something, is where's your time going to?
Yeah.
And having that time to actually slow down. Like they say, we never have enough time. Well, you do. Take time to get away and have solitude. Turn everything off. Be with the Lord, right? Talk to him. Just be away and unplugged, and evaluate your life from a real perspective, not just what you want to say your life is like.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
solitude.
Good. Yeah, thoughts?
I think Sean touched on it great earlier when he talked about if there seems to be a dependency on that thing, like, it's a pretty good indication that there's an idol there in your life. And so evaluate and ask those questions like, oh, would I be okay if I had to step away from this? And if it's not, then, I mean, what do you got going on there?
Yeah.
Maybe some evaluation that needs to go deeper further into that. And it's not to say like, oh, well, I can't step away from my job, so it's an idol. No, you got to provide for your family. You got to take care of yourself and things like that. But it's those other things like, oh, man, I really can't step away from this. And it's not like something I need that to take care of myself or to provide in these instances. then I think there's some pretty good indication that you might have some mixed up priorities on where that thing should fall in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Any other thoughts on that? I just Googled it. How to identify idols in my life. The
Yeah, because
AI
Google's where we
overview.
should turn.
Yeah, look, this is deep theology here. AI overview. To identify idols in your life, examine what you prioritize, fear losing, and what controls your thoughts and emotions, which is really exactly what you guys said.
No, I think the emotion one's a big, like,
What you? Yeah.
if your Sunday attitude is determined by how your team played on Saturday or how your team's going to play on Sunday, might have some idol worship going on like that. That's hard to say with the guy in the UT shirt across the table from me.
It's all right.
But-
If I don't get my time sitting in my chair watching the Tennessee Volunteers play, because of a pool
Delight in
situation,
that chair.
then yes, I would not be happy.
Yeah. Which again, there's nothing wrong with being a fan, but if your entire week is made or breaked by like how your team does, like obviously some stuff going on there. Or if you're a contestant that make it through on American Idol. Ooh, Idol.
Idol.
Ooh,
Idol.
it's in the name. They're not trying to hide it, people. We got it's mass conspiracy. No. But the emotional one, that is a good thing. So a lot of times we look at time, but if it does dictate your emotions too,
Yeah,
it could be a lot going on there as well.
for sure. And just understanding too that like we're all in different seasons. So there's some seasons that are going to take more time to do certain things. Like parenting little kids takes a lot of time. And so it restricts the extra time for other things. And so different seasons are going to look different, but how we fill that time, I think, is key. So what's drawing most of our time, what's drawing a lot of our emotion, and what are we giving that first thought to, I think is a good indicator too. Like when something challenging comes in our life, what's our first thought go to? Is it, how am I responding to this? Like what WWJD, wear the bracelet, will bring it back. What would Jesus do in this context? Like what does the Bible say about this? Nice. Look at that. What's the
He would love first. What would he
That's
do?
the answer to the question.
What would he do? He'd love first.
question and answer? Love it. But is our first question Jesus or what the Bible says about this, or is it what is somebody going to think about this, or how am I going to look in this context, or whatever it may be? I think that's a good check for where are our priorities, where is our heart lying, and do we have idols in those areas?
Yeah.
Well, back to taking the eye out of it. Like Jeff said, are you worried about what you are going to look in this, or is Christ going to be glorified in this? How is Christ going to be seen if you do this versus how are you going to be seen?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a big one.
Yep. I think that first reaction too is like, oh, I'm so stressed out. What do you turn to in those moments can be a good indication of where you're seeking your hope and your peace in as well.
Absolutely.
So, well, I'm just so stressed. I just got to scroll for a little bit. I mean, is that where you should go in those moments? And I guess is guilty of it because I can't think of so many times where after we get Addie down and sitting there with Kayla, I just need to veg out for a little bit. It's like, well, I should have really been using that for my time and doing it that way, which again, nothing wrong with decompressing and relaxing, but looking at the rest of that time and is it really just a quick thing or does it become more than that? So
absolutely. Well, good stuff. Anybody have anything else to add? I'm the kind of person, even in high school, like I'd be in guys' Bible studies and I'd have something to add to a conversation, like at the beginning of the conversation. But those the other guys that jumped in too quick and I never got a chance to say anything. So I always like to give anybody else have anything? No? Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's a good conversation. Hopefully it was beneficial. I mean, these conversations are even helpful for me to kind of continue thinking through this and processing the message and digging a little deeper into it. So
Very mature.
Any final Jeff-isms before we go?
I'm out.
You had like 80 of them yesterday. It was awesome.
I have a bunch.
You have to do it with him.
I'm trying to be mature right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Hope the rest of the summer goes well. We'll be praying for your Bible studies and Lane for your kind of wrapping up. When is your summer over? When do you go back to Oklahoma?
I think the 4th of August
Okay.
is when I'm moving.
Nice. And it is
I have a haircut the 5th.
mid-July. Mid-July. Start back to school?
Mm-hmm.
The
6th I move in.
Nice. 4th, 5th, 6th. Nice. Good deal. Well, glad to get to know you a little bit this summer, and good to have you. Pray the rest of the summer goes well. Y'all's Bible studies and everything else. So cool. Sounds good. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.